Welcome to the MISD Insider, our weekly visit with Midlothian School Superintendent Dr. Lane Ledbetter. Hi, I'm Alexis Carey, and we're glad you joined us today as we once again welcome Dr. Ledbetter and Mr. Norris, the MISD Assistant Superintendent for Finances. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Ledbetter, I've heard people are receiving their tax valuations in the mail and many seem to be going higher. While the school district does use the valuations, we don't determine them, do we?
That's correct, and I think there's been a little bit of a misperception, I think, out there about the tax values, and we really, those are determined by the Central Appraisal District, and so the district doesn't play a part in that. There's also been a little bit of concern over the fact that their values are going up in relation to our bond election and possible tax rates, and really that, our tax rate, as we stated through that process, will remain the same, and so there's no correlation between any increase in that and anything that we've done with our bond election.
Mr. Norris, if people feel the valuation is too high, there's a process to appeal that value, isn't there?
There is, Alexis. In fact, when people get their appraisal notice, there's a document in there that tells them exactly how to appeal their values if they think they're too high, and that's through the Ellis County Appraisal District over in Waxahachie, and they can provide evidence of value or an appraisal or something else that the people over there can look at, and they can determine that value is too high or too low and make adjustments.
It's probably good to remind people that MISD is one of a handful of districts in the state that provide homeowners with a tax exemption. Would you explain that, please?
Yes, we do have a local homestead exemption. There is a state homestead exemption that all school districts have to apply. That's $25,000 off the value of a property. But in Midlothian ISD, we have for years given an extra 10% off of that. So it makes us have some of the lowest taxes around.
And even if our local property values go up, that money may reduce what we receive from the state, right?
It does, because of the state funding formulas. That local property value becomes very important because they are ranking districts according to wealth per student. And the higher wealth you have, the less students you have. In other words, the wealth per student, then you get less state funds per that student. In a district that has maybe a lot of kids and not a lot of value, then they get the most state funds per child. So it's a way of equalizing the money.
So let's turn that to a process that you do control. You're already working on the budget for next year. What's that process?
We are. We've been working on that. We never really stop, but we start really in November every year for the next school year, putting out a calendar, working with our board, giving them some important dates. We've gone through campus and department, over 40 meetings with campus and department personnel saying, what do you need? Here's your budget this year. What are you going to have left? What do you need for next year? And then we put that expenditure side together based on the growth we're going to have, based on people we might need, what our staff salaries are going to be, those things. And then I work on the revenue side, and those are made up of the taxes and the state funds. So that's what we're doing right now, is working on the revenue piece of it.
I gotcha. So I believe the legislators in Austin are working on a budget for the next 2 years. How much of what you do depends on their work?
It depends a great deal, because now the House has a version of the budget and the Senate has a version of their budget. Both include public school finance. The Senate version does not include a lot of new money for schools. The House version does. And so they're at an impasse right now. What's going to happen is there'll be a conference committee that'll work through the next couple of weeks to, hopefully by the time the legislature adjourns, they'll have a consensus of what's going to happen. If not, we may be in a special session and not know our state funds for a while. But that becomes about 40% of our money, our revenue, so we really need to know that number fairly quick.
I gotcha. So I believe this is all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for both being here, and thank you guys for watching, and join us next week for another edition of MISD Insider.